one of the things that you say in all your videos in the beginning is you are God. And at first, I didn't have a strong reaction to it because fortunately for me, I didn't have a strong, at the time that I started working with you, I didn't have a strong denial of this word God. I think we need to revive the word, resurrect the word, because I think it's a very powerful word, especially when you understand what God is. But it's something that you say at the beginning of every single video. And I want to understand how you discovered that for yourself and what that means to you.
Mhm. I always knew it. Ever since I was a little kid, like I was raised Catholic, and so I'm taking, catechism class and learning about the Bible and everything I'm supposed to understand as a Catholic. And it always just made sense to me that everything is God. I'm sure my parents had a hand in offering that understanding, but I can't remember whenever I was sat down and explained it. But when the teachers, in the catechism class would say that God is everywhere or God is the creator, it just made sense to me that it has to be everything. Now, when I say I am God, it doesn't mean in this human experience that I'm experiencing all of myself. Because in my understanding, if I'm experiencing the fullness of God that I am, then I'm perceiving everything all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, in our human experience, we're filtering out, 99.99 probably to eternity percent of reality, and we're taking just this really, really small fraction of reality. And even my personality is just a fraction of the possibilities of understanding as a human being and emotion as a human being, in addition to the body and the environment I'm in. So for me, we're all God consciousness, and logically it just makes sense. Experientially, it makes sense. For me, it's an undeniable fact that we're all God. And if someone says we're not God, the way I interpret it is you're just not understanding who you are.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
someone saying like, I'm not a human being.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, no, well, you have a human body, and they're denying it or they can't perceive it. It makes sense that this is what we call a human body. This is the word we use to be human. And if you have the features of it, you have the human body. You might not accept it, you might not understand it, but there's a reality to that's what's existing right now. So for everybody, you're God. And you could think, I'm not God. God doesn't love me. God rejected me. But in my experience, they don't really have a fully developed understanding of what that word even means.
Mm-hmm.
But when we look at religions and we look at different cultures, that word God, I feel, is the most powerful word in the human language in any culture. And it's also the most difficult to define, and it's the most triggering word. It has the most emotional potency to it because we've attached everything else to just what the word God means.
Mm-hmm. Oh no.
So when we look at the definition of God, it's something that exists everywhere. Yeah. Okay. When we look at the word God, we realize it's like all knowing, all powerful, all creative, all aware. Some would even call it all loving. So basically, it's the omnis. And so if you really look into that terminology, it means that there can never be anywhere or anything or any experience, any idea that is not God. If we look at like what God, the word is used to describe, it encompasses everything. And that's how it's always been known historically. But unfortunately, a lot of people, as we see in the modern day world, they don't really think for themselves, or they don't really put together the pieces of like science or definitions or logic and reason. And they fill in the blanks with their own assumptions or their own limited ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think with historically, God wants you to kill somebody else because, they're not of the same religion we are, or their skin looks different than us. It's like, well, if you understand what God is, you would realize that God would never like instruct you to kill someone in the same way God would never instruct you to create an experience. Because you are God and God is the all that is, and God is not a separate thing from us. God is the complete experience of all that we are. We're just only experiencing a very tiny percentage of it. So as I look back at history, and I studied all the religions, I have a degree in religion.
Thank
I
you.
noticed that like religion and like true spiritual, we call spirituality right now, like the beliefs of God and self and soul and all of that, that's been mixed into politics. It's been mixed into government and the rule of societies. It's been mixed into finance. It's been mixed into ownership of property and physical objects. So people have essentially used religion and spirituality as a way to do other human things. And so they'll threaten you, well, God will kill you, or God will punish you and put you in hell, or God will just unmake your reality and destroy you forever. And these are all oftentimes threats made for political agendas, for personal agendas, some sort of human experience of desire.
Mhm.
So if we can get past all the modification of actually what the word God means, we see it's pretty pure and basic. And then if you just follow that logical argument to the end, you'll realize that everything has to be God.
So I can understand you understanding that, okay, everything has to be God, and that includes me.
Mhm.
But when you say God consciousness, what do you mean by that?
So there's an experience that we can have, and I've had that experience on a number of occasions, where we can actually transcend our own personal experience completely, in which we're no longer perceiving anything, any resemblance of the human reality, any resemblance of my human existence. So it's like a state of pure consciousness. And in those experiences, the deepest that I've gone, it's been pure consciousness and pure energy. So there's no individuated form. There's just one light, and to me, it looks brilliant white, like pure white, and it fills everything. And there's no distance between myself and it. And I am perceiving it while I'm also being it. And there's also no time, and there's no experience of reflection. And that's the way that I understand there's no time, because as soon as there's a movement, that state vanishes. So if I even have the realization that I'm having an experience, then I leave that state, because to have a reflection of understanding, there has to be separation. There
Right.
has to be something else I'm reflecting upon, and then the space in which the idea appears. So in deep meditation, or it's happened spontaneously with me sometimes, like in your experience, there's a greater power than your will that just takes you there. And that's how it first started happening with me, is that I'm taken to this place where my own personal will just vanishes, and I'm being a state of pure awareness. And the way I understand it is it's just pure creative energy filling all of the space, and there's infinite intelligence, and I am all of this. And then as I come out of that place, the forms start appearing from that light. And so my understanding has been that that light is the appearance of the energy that creates the forms in any dimension, in any reality. And then when I came out of it, the first time it happened, I don't know how long I was in the state, maybe 10 or 20 seconds, but there was no time, but it felt like that. I came out of it and I was extremely blissful. And I knew without a shadow of a doubt that everything was the same as myself. And I remember I was in Sedona. I remember looking outside of my door, and I opened the door and I walked outside, and everything was shining with light, like all the plants and the leaves, and everything was shining with this white aura around it. It wasn't like if you see an individual aura that it's like outlining. It was like everything is like radiating and shining. So the energy's in front of the plants and around the plants and behind the plants. It's just like everywhere is this white light. And I knew inside myself that this is all the same infinite energy of God. And it's just appearing as a finite temporary experience right now.